Okay, Buddha. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us and not hiding on this in this coronavirus-free temple. Hopefully, crossing our fingers. So today we're going to do something new, but we are also going to review any past topics or lessons we've covered. So since most of us have already been through the majority of the series, I won't actually go over anything. But if you have any questions about anything we've covered, or you need more clarification for any of the topics, or just anything meditation in general, please feel free to ask. Afterward, for our actual sitting meditation, we're going to use these fancy bamboo sticks to practice our stability and our posture by balancing it on our shoulder, like so. Well, as I mentioned earlier, I've never done this with like robes on, so it's going to be a little bit difficult for me, but that's how I first learned how to keep my posture with my first meditation teacher. We would also put this behind our back, around our shoulders to help us keep up. So my sisters used to do when they took ballet. Stick them behind to keep her back up straight, so you can do that. But we will be doing a balancing act today. So if it doesn't fall, then your posture is correct. If it falls, just correct it and try again. So I have a bunch over here. They're different sizes, shapes, and whatever. So you can find one that you like. And then I'll go around and help everyone balance it once we actually do start. But until then, any questions? Anything we need to review or re-review, go over, expand on, or anything? Okay, if you don't ask questions, we're just going to sit for longer. About metta meditation, yeah. Metta. Loving kindness. Sure. Fancy notes here. So metta meditation, or loving kindness meditation, is the practice of meditating on others and on yourself. So the whole point of metta meditation is to pretty much develop compassion towards all sentient beings. So in our notes and our steps, we all start with yourself, right? Because just like anything else, you really have to help yourself first before you're able to help others. So for metta meditation, there's a few verses you can say as we're meditating. So when you start on yourself, you can say, I wish to be happy, I wish to be free from suffering, I wish to be healthy, and I wish to be happy. And you say that thing for others. So I wish my mother to be happy, I wish my mother to be free of suffering, I wish my mother to be healthy. And kind of go down the line. So you start with yourself, and then you start with someone, either a family member or someone you love. So it's usually your parents or your siblings or your kids. And then you kind of go down the line. So from yourself to someone you love, to a friend, to someone that's neutral, so like a coworker or a neighbor, and then to someone that you dislike. We won't use that word hate here, but someone you dislike or don't really click with, and then finally to all sentient beings. So it's going to help you as you go down the line and you get to the people who are neutral or that you dislike. Sometimes it's a little difficult to want to show compassion to those people because you don't like them for a reason. So it's kind of hard to get over that. But while we practice loving kindness or showing them compassion through meditation, we are eliminating those obstacles that cause us to dislike them or don't want to speak to them or don't want to be nice to them. And it'll help us just show compassion versus showing aversion or showing dislike intentionally or unintentionally with them, without them, or to other people, right? So talking behind their back or anything like that, which probably everyone does, since, you know, if you've worked in the corporate world, that's basically the whole lifestyle of the office space sometimes, right? It's just gossiping or talking bad about somebody else. So again, so I always say, may I be happy, may I be safe, may I be healthy, and may my mind be at ease, which is the 4 verses I put in our notes. May I be happy, may I be safe, may I be healthy, may my mind be at ease. And then you continue with may you, so you'd visualize the other person in your mind, may you be happy, may you be safe, may you be healthy, may your mind be at ease. And then you just move on. So you're extending your care, you're extending your compassion, you're extending your love to all people. Hopefully the result of this should be that when you interact with those people, that you just naturally feel compassion towards them, even though those we may dislike or those that we just don't care to want to see or talk to. Because what's gonna happen if we don't do that, and when we see these people that we don't like or that we just don't care about, we are gonna naturally have thoughts of negative thoughts, of aversion, of ignorance, of discomfort, right? And that's obviously not going to benefit us in any way, shape, or form. If anything, it's just going to exacerbate our dislike, our negativity towards them. Because everything starts in the mind, right? So everything starts in the mind as a thought, then it can come out as speech, and then it comes out to action. So if you're thinking of slashing their tires, then you're going to say, you know, I'm going to slash your tires. And then 5 minutes later, you're slashing their tires, right? So it causes this negative domino effect. Of course, that might not always happen. We may just say things just to say it, to vent, but that venting process is not helping. It's just causing this darkness within ourselves, and we don't want to have that. Because we should be able to, we're all human beings. We all share this natural human connection because we all have the same bodily functions, the same organs, the same blood, and same tears. So we're all one being, essentially. We're separated. We all come from the same place. And in Buddhist practice, we are all related by 7 generations in the past. So in the past life, we could have been enemies, right? But we're friends now. In the future life, we can either be enemies again or be friends again. Or you could have been our mother or father or sister or brother, right? Any sort of relation in the past. So if we were connected like that as family before, why are we not feeling the same way now, right? So when you're seeing someone on the street, you shouldn't see them as someone that's homeless or a different race or color or gender. You should see them as a family member, right? Because naturally when you see a family member out or about, or if you visit them, you have that natural connection. Those dogs are really going at it. You naturally feel love and compassion toward your family, right? So we want to extend that same feeling to everybody else. And what that hopefully does for us is bring up this natural feeling of wanting to help. So if we see someone struggling or someone in need of help, we just naturally have this tendency just to want to help them without having to think about it, right? Because sometimes we think, do they really need help? Do I really have time to help them? Do I really want to help them, right? And by thinking that way, if you do eventually help, your helpfulness is, your intention isn't genuine because you had to really think about it and weigh your options. But when we see our grandmother or our parents or siblings in need or hurt or needing something, we naturally just go and do it, right? Without really having to think about it. So by practicing loving kindness meditation, we extend that same feeling of helping and loving our family to everybody else. It's difficult, obviously, right? We interact with hundreds of people, thousands of people throughout our lifetime, and we will naturally have the tendency to dislike some people that we don't connect with or just don't mesh with. But we want to try to avoid that as much as we can, just so we don't have any mental blockages when it comes time for real help for those people. So hopefully, with practice, that helps us. It is something that I encourage everyone to at least do regularly, or as you're driving. I do it when I'm driving very often, because as you know, I have minor road rage. But it's definitely a good time. It's a good time to practice loving kindness is during rush hour. Last weekend, teacher and Leon and I drove to Houston and Dallas all in the same day, and I was the driver, and let me just tell you, there were parts of the trip where my mind was not pretty because I'm like, just move out of my way. But I come back to either saying a mantra mentally or just reciting, may they be happy, may they be free of suffering, may they be healthy, may their mind be at ease. Because as we mentioned before, if someone's speeding by or someone's doing something stupid and just really out of the normal ordinary of driving, maybe they have a reason to be cutting you off. Maybe they have somewhere they have to be. Maybe they're rushing to the hospital. Maybe they're rushing to see someone that's ill or whatever, right? Like we don't know their story, so we can't assume that they're just being bad people or bad drivers. So on the way back, instead of mentally noting, I just put on a few Dharma talks in the car, some audios, some audiobooks, and we just listen to that, and that helps as well. But it gives you even doing that, that's a meditation object, right? So throughout the course we went over several meditation objects, which is the different methods of meditation we've done. So saying this in the car or listening to an audiobook or whatever is also a meditation object, because you're hopefully focusing on that one thing. Obviously, if you're driving, you want to focus on driving also, but you're not mentally entertaining thoughts of imaginary things or false thinking, right? You're focusing on driving, but you're also focusing on the audio talk or book.
I find myself practicing like that a lot, is putting on Dharma talks or because I have audiobooks, because I notice that when I am listening to the radio, more and more now, I'm more conscious of how I get lost in the song. And how it brings certain memories,
right?
And certain longings. Because I was listening to this romantic song, and I'm like, oh, blah blah blah. And I'm like, whoa, wait a second, where the heck is this taking me? And I was very conscious of it. I mean, I was able to stop to it because I don't like doing that. It's not. I've always felt that it was romanticized. When my daughter was younger, she would sing these crazy songs about all these things, and I'm like, I didn't think they were appropriate then, but now I'm even more aware of how they do take your mind out, and you're not focusing on driving, and you're not focusing on anything good.
Right.
Like, sometimes they even get you in moods that you don't want to be in. So, but the Dharma talks on the rate or over the Bluetooth are really good.
Yeah, I don't even listen to the radio anymore. I can't.
It's been a hard thing to break. Right, because or I'm working on, but I do see it. I do have the right view of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like I do, anyway. Because it's not that it's a bad thing. It's just it's not helpful to me right now. When I can focus on, a talk on it, or even just conquering my thoughts as I go through the day.
Right.
Of not wanting to feel road rage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Instead, it takes me to stuff I don't need to remember or worry about anymore.
Yeah. I used to be a huge concert goer. I would go to been to hundreds of concerts in the past since I've lived here. So that was kind of my thing. So every time I listen to the radio, I'm listening to something like, I've seen them, or I remember, certain events or concert they're at, and it brings me back to, I'm like, oh, I used to have so much fun before I was a monk. And now sacrifice that, right? So that's one of the reasons why I don't listen. But also, a lot of the songs are just, sure, they're about love and loss, but they're also, a lot of them are
Dysfunctional.
right, dysfunctional,
Very dysfunctional.
and they're wrong and they're false and they're not.
And the perspective that they're I feel like they're romanticizing the wrong perspective, the wrong view of some, at least what I'm trying to achieve.
Right.
I'm trying to get better at. So yeah, you're absolutely right. And that's what kind of that's why I don't have the oh my god, I'm giving up something. I'm more like, wow, I'm awakening from that. It's
right.
what I feel like.
Right.
It's, once you know, it's kind of hard not to know.
Yeah, and that's a part of, I know, part of a practice, right? Because part of the Four Noble Truths is that life is dissatisfying, and we're like, what does that even mean? Sometimes, right? Like we just can't, we don't understand it. But as you practice and you go through your life and you start contemplating and being mindful of your life, just in general, life in general, you see that these little things are the hindrances that are causing you to suffer. It's like in the music, right? The romanticizing of these false worlds that these people are singing about, or certain people or certain places. They're giving you, they're the one. These are the things that are making you unhappy or giving you thoughts of worry or anxiety, right? So these little things, as you be mindful of them, you get to see that these are the things that are causing us to suffer or causing us to be dissatisfied. And so once we're able to pinpoint what it is, it's easier to let go because we see the negativity or the falseness that it's giving us, right? But that's part of the practice. So being mindful of music like that is very good for you. It's waking up your consciousness in a way, right? You're seeing something that's not helpful, and you're doing something about it by not listening to it, or at least limiting your listening to it.
Yeah, I'm learning to detach from it because not like it's such a but just not be so. Because my first thought was like I had a question in one of these Saturday classes one time. And maybe it was their teacher, and I was like, "What about music? Do you remember that?" And I was like,
Yeah.
And that's when you had mentioned that it's not that it's a bad thing or a good thing, but it tells stories, and it's
Right.
just like a movie, And I feel like that's kind of the whole point of, or one of the predominant points of this practice is to learn to control the mind so that we don't live in those
Illusions.
yes, exactly. And so it just takes you back, and I'm like, whoa. So, but it was hard for me to hear that because everybody loves music, and then we all kind of identify with music as well. The reason we like music is because we like a message,
right? Because we're always like, oh, the song was made for me or something.
Exactly. You're like, it's either about love and your love, or it's about heartbreak because you're heartbroken, or
right.
or it's about giving me my money. Where is it? So,
right.
Anyway, but it's pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting. But the Dharma talks over that does, like you said, it does the same thing, but now it's more contemplating things that can help me in my real relationships, in my real work, and my real,
right.
life, as opposed to this other
fantasy.
Often popular culture is very trivial. It's very banal, very basic. And I think there's also a category of what I like to call music, divine music, or I can't find the particular word I want.
inspirational,
maybe sacred, or there's a classification of art that is quite different than that. I mean, its essence is like there's certain classical music pieces I can put on, and I feel anything but distracted or deluded. It's very much of a focus. The vibrations of music, like chanting, there's certain beneficial. So I would say, music can be distracting and very base, but it can also be very divine as well. So
that's a good point. I'm glad you said that. Yeah, you're right, because you can't just focus to something that is healthier, more productive, or more inspirational.
Like telling stories. People can tell stories that are very trivial and they get you all worked up, but there's there's no there. But then there are stories based on truth that actually will open your eyes and give you that aha moment.
That's
so,
awesome, man. You reminded me. There's a middle. There's a middle.
Exactly. Well,
Yeah.
Thích talks a lot about, he talks about the seeds, right? So every time you entertain a thought that's salacious, well, you're planting a certain seed in your consciousness, whether you think you are or not. And it's there, and it's going to either germinate or not. So he just talks about taking in media as just being discriminatory, and taking in, filtering the media that's beneficial, big filtering out that is not.
That's a good reminder. Thank you.
It's not all.
Yes.
How do you avoid using this, what you all are talking about, as a avoidance technique rather than facing what you're looking at, or an emotion that you didn't want to feel? So you're avoiding listening to it because you don't want to feel that emotion. What part of meditation was to feel all that and to face it and let go?
If you're doing it for the first time, you have to recognize what it is, right? So you can't face something without knowing what it is. So you can, if you don't know like a certain music or certain type of music is causing
I'm
you.
not talking about just music. I should have put back to music. I'm talking about just avoiding your emotions in general. Like, some of what you're saying sounds like you're trying to avoid something rather than face it. So, I don't see
Oh, just like in general, not just music.
Not just music.
We're not necessarily avoiding it. So let's say a certain what's a good example? It's not it's not necessarily avoiding.
I see what you're saying.
It's
how it could come across that way. I see what you're saying.
yeah,
Is there a fine line? Like there's a fine line?
there's kind of a fine line. So you're not avoiding. Like in meditation, when a thought or distraction comes up, we're making mental notes of it, right? So whether it's a dog barking, or you're feeling discomfort, or you're feeling angry because you're not doing something right, you're not avoiding things. You are mentally being mindful of it, right? So if you do pass by a person that you don't like, right, you're like, oh, they're coming towards me, let me just go around the tree, so I have to avoid them, right? But it's you're not you don't know how.
I guess the question is, what are you doing to keep yourself from going down that path instead of?
You are not in.
So can I share what I was talking about? Maybe that'll, because you're right. Because you say something and then you don't give all the whole thing. With for example, with the whole music that I was speaking of. So the whole music that I when just that specific reference is because, for example, there was a song about romanticism. Right, that's the example that I gave. And so when I was in a very dysfunctional marriage, not like crazy dysfunctional, but dysfunctional enough. But since then, I've gotten over it. I've been to therapy. I've worked on it. This is not something that I want to just forget because it brings back a horrible memory. What I'm referencing in my particular situation is that it's not something that I'm looking for right now. You know what I mean? And it's not something that I'm going to want and long for the way that the song makes me feel like I should. You know what I'm saying? So if I happen, if I'm not closed off to relationships, but it's not something that I want to continue. And I feel like the songs kind of bring me to that. They give me kind of like a longing, a romanticizing of an idea that really isn't that. Yes, relationships can be good, and you could with the right relationship, but that song brings me to romanticize a dysfunctional one. And so I've already made peace with that, It's not something that bothers me in my life, but I don't want to keep bringing it back and feeding that seed. That's how I feel about it. So a lot of the subjects. So when in Buddhism, in this case, when you recognize something, it's either two things: either you've already worked on it, and you kind of just don't want to go back into that, or like Quang was saying, it's the beginning of the recognition, and you should think about it, right? Like what you were saying, you should think about why do I feel that way, But Buddhism doesn't try to avoid those things. It's just You avoid distractions so you can work on things that matter.
I didn't think we did that.
I
I was just hearing avoidance.
Yeah, no, and it's good to face it because it is confusing. It's really
identifying what's the right
confusing.
way to do things, what is one of the positive things we should be doing. We just identifying and being mindful.
And I'll tell you a lot about the teachings is contradictory and like that. I get confused like that too. And then I look more into it. It's like, okay, that's a kind of how it fits.
Because things either come up as positive, neutral, or negative, technically, right? So it's not avoiding the actual feeling, it's avoiding what the feeling's going to lead you to do or think or say, right? So if you have a negative feeling that comes up, we're either going to entertain it and go with it and make up this imaginary scene in our heads of us slashing tires or TPing a house, or we can just acknowledge what the feeling is, how it's making us feel, and then just kind of move on. Because ultimately what the result should be is, as it comes up again in the future, you just acknowledge it and you don't let it affect you, and then just move on, right? But you're not avoiding the actual feeling, you're avoiding what it may cause you to do, which could either be positive, neutral, or negative. Avoidance is not a good word. Probably should avoid using avoid. It's acknowledgement. It's being mindful.
Make a choice.
Well, and I think you kind of need to pick and choose what is the goal? Are you trying to, change your mind on something or change your perspective? Are you trying to deal with the situation? It can't, like you say, we have a lot of tools. It just depends on which one you use.
Right. So the same thing with like the loving compassion or the metta verses, right? So when you're encountering someone you dislike, or if you're road raging, you can either continue road raging or talking bad about that person, or you can say the verses of may they be happy, may they be at health, may they be healthy, may they be mind be at ease, right? So you have a choice what you do with it. It's either a good choice or a bad choice, or just kind of a neutral whatever choice. But don't avoid. I'm gonna erase that from my directory.
Replace with acknowledge.
Acknowledge is a good word. Acknowledge and being mindful. Yeah.
So you know the person I'm talking about. So when I try to send, this is my man. When I try to send her nice, like be compassionate, I see her suffering, stuff like that. She has her fears, right? Whatever about her job. It only works for so long. And then she says something to me, and it just set me off because I know that she's wrong. I know that she's BSing me because she doesn't know what she's talking about. And ultimately what it boils down to when I look at my feelings and my reactions to her, it's because I don't want to be a part of what she's doing. Because I don't want when she gets caught, basically she's doing stuff because she knows it's not being audited and there's no oversight, no one's watching her. When it comes back to us, to the team, because everybody's on the team because she's a man, I don't want to be like I didn't, raise my hand. I don't want to be because I agree with them. You know what I mean? So it's like I'm being forced to be inauthentic, I'm being forced to be, and I don't want to be. And I'm taking steps that they tell me to take, and it doesn't do anything. So how do you work with that compassion? Like I feel like I'm wasting, it's energy I'm wasting, and then now it's not pure, it's not honest when I'm trying to send it out to her because.
And it may not be at first, because
I
we...
feel like it was at first, but now I feel like it's not. I'm going backwards.
It's going back and forth.
Yeah.
And you may, because it's a constant bombardment of them doing something to irritate you, right? Like you have constant emotional triggers by them. So it's going to be difficult. And those are one of the situations where it's probably the most difficult because it's constant, right? It's not once in a while or only when you go to a certain place or do certain things. It's repetitive. So even if your compassion is not genuine, you are still putting the effort in there, right? So even though you feel like I have to do this, or you're feeling like this is not genuine, but I'm going to do it anyway, which is fine, because if you do something that's not good and it causes this whole negative situation or just heated situation, then is that any better than being fake? Probably not, right? So unfortunately, like people say, you gotta fake it till you make it. And this is one of those things where that kind of applies. But repetition is going to be your kind of goal in that situation. Because again, we worked like one row apart, and so she knows my frustrations, I know her frustrations, and she knows that eventually I gave up caring. Not because I gave up, it's because I just like I wasn't gonna let it affect me anymore. Right. It's a terrible feeling to always just be so negative and so hostile against certain people or certain situations that happen that eventually you just kind of whatever happens that happens.
It also affects your actions though, because I know like I personally don't work with people in a situation like that, but my daughter comes home and she's frustrated with this coworker, that coworker, the manager, and the other, whatever. And then she's like, I'm just quitting. I'm just gonna, and all this stuff. And I'm like, you love your job. You get paid well. You know what I mean? Like yesterday was a blessing and today's horrible. Just calm down. Just calm down. So it does affect you mentally when someone's constantly, not keeping their word or, so forth and so on. So it's challenging.
You have the opportunity to choose not to do the things that you think are not right or not good.
No,
Because then you're singled out in the team.
Oh no, I'm singled out.
I would just say
which doesn't bother me. Like what bothers me more is that a lot of people in this that's in higher positions in here not saying things, not that I know of. And then Wells Fargo supposedly has these like avenues where you can go and do stuff, but I've taken those avenues, and here we are almost a year later, and nothing's changed. So
that's kind of what happened to me, and I gave up.
Sometimes, I used to call it pulling out the middle balance sheet. Stressful corporate environment. Some days are terrible, so you're always pulling out benefits, and weighing it out.
It's not even. I like my job. I feel like most of people don't like it. It's just, and I don't dislike her. She doesn't know what she's doing. She doesn't. She has no idea what a tech writer does. She really has been faking it for like 4 years. And
she's really faking it until you make it.
Her ego won't allow her to say that she's wrong, and she puts out misinformation all the time. Like we had a meeting with someone was training us on something, and she said all this stuff, and that person came to me after the meeting. She's like, your boss doesn't know what she's talking about. She said a bunch of stuff that was not true in that meeting. But she says it to our team like it's so factual, and then we try to check her on it. No, this is true. She'll argue up and down. But she doesn't know because she just wants to be. And I think honestly, it comes from a place from her that she wants to help people, and she sees herself as this problem solver. I think it comes from that place, but her ego and her fear of like failure, it becomes like this big thing, and she annoys so many people.
Did she really need your blessing?
Yeah, but I don't want to give it to her because I just want her gone away from me.
I don't know.
See, it's not only for her; it's for you as well. So by doing the meditation, it helps us to just let go of what they're causing to happen in us, because you're upset and all this negativity going in your mind, in my mind, I'm thinking about myself too. That's all happening, and it's only happening within us. When someone says something mean to us.
Plus, I heard a lot of compassion in what you said. So it is working. You were very compassionate in the way you spoke with her.
I can see why she's probably maybe the way she is, but the point is, I think, the main point is that all this suffering and agony, we're causing it ourselves in our own minds, right?
Yeah.
It's not, because she's gonna make you feel terrible, and she's gonna go off and have a great day. Meanwhile, we're gonna spend the rest of our day going
Because all
all
you can
upset.
do is yourself.
Is it how, and I ask myself, why do I let people do that to me? And hopefully the Buddhism will help us, because we have a choice not to allow someone else to upset us, right? That's the point.
True.
It takes the work, and that's
So the
why we're
compassion
here to
is really
meditate.
for us, for yourself,
I need to work on compassion for myself.
for yourself. So when you say it to yourself first and then to her, it's kind of like,
Even though this person causes me a lot of problems, I'm not going to let them. I'm not going to let them ruin my day. The thing is, sooner or later, she'll get caught if she's incompetent. Sooner or later, might not be tomorrow, but at some point, it will all come out, and maybe it's not up to you to expose it. So it's tough. You walk that line and go, I'm going to do my best not to do anything incorrectly, even if she tells me, because I know it's incorrect. And if she should call you on that and cause a big thing, then you can say, well, here's why I did what I did in good conscience. But
it sounds like she's
it is hard. I'm with you. I totally understand.
So work from home.
No, not allowed.
Let's get our schedule.
Okay, yeah. Just practice.
But it really is
Because I was-
for you. But I heard a lot of compassion in what you
One
said.
thing I want to add about the positive meditation, about like others. There is some scientific fact about that. Like our brain, our body emits the waves to the other people, so that negatively affects us. Because they think like, yeah, this guy is just always negative about me, or this lady is negative about me. So she reacts even though you're not doing anything, but you are thinking something negative. You're not thinking positive about them. It just
It keeps the cycle going.
Yeah, it just keeps going.
Stimulus response, stimulus response. And you
Even
get
though you're
hooked in
not
that
doing,
loop.
you are all right, but still, like your body, your brain is emitting something that she is reacting that. So if we pray for them, then maybe it will change their behavior. Maybe it will make them better. It will make them think good about you.
Cycle
Yeah.
of action and reaction and action and reaction.
Or call me on a second.
That's the thing, and sometimes people do things on purpose just to get a reaction from us, right? And I've always said before, like, if someone calls you a fat purple cow, does that actually make you a fat purple cow? Right? But sometimes it'll flow, like, no, I'm not a fat purple cow, or like, don't call me that. Like, we feel hostile towards it, but that doesn't make you that thing just because someone called you names, right? But like Leon said, like, it all comes back to how you allow yourself. That's why we practice mindfulness. So if you're having these things that come up that are negative or otherwise, it's going to be up to you of how you react towards it. So we're not avoiding, we are just being mindful of what comes up. Right, we're not adding,
Come up and letting it go away.
we're not giving,
Rises and falls.
we're not giving sequels to these things. We're just giving, it's a pilot episode and that's it. It's not succeeding after that. Right.
I have found it helpful lately. I've kind of set up with this one in my heart. And so I guess I go inward. Just cry a little and breathe.
I'm an inward person as well.
Well,
so
you know what?
I
With these, their lessons, they're a little confusing. Sometimes I'm like, what the heck? And sometimes I'm like, yeah, that's the way. But eventually it does, right? Like, I don't know. I've seen a lot of just more clarity in my head. I see things a little bit more for really what they are, not what I want them to be, not what they should be.
There's this guy called Creative Garden. What's his name? Garden. Anyway, he has eugenics. There's this theory called eugenics. But he has this thing called, he talks about how there is no negative or positive. There's only what is. The mind judges, so it makes something negative positive. When something happens to you, you just see it for what it is, and then you acknowledge it and you thank it, you bless it for it happening to you, and see what it taught you about yourself, and then you let it go. And when you let it go and you bless it and acknowledge it, it releases the negative charge to it because you're human and you got to be able to place the label things as positive, negative, things like that. And when you acknowledge it and you bless it and you let it go, it's you taking it out of your system, out of like your aura or whatever, and you just keep it moving. Like you're gonna experience pain or hurt or whatever, but you have to let that part of it acknowledge what it did to you and what it taught you about yourself. Like, oh, I'm not good with rejection, and then you're done with it. That's the back to like the type of story to it, right? That's a thing, but that's so easily said than done.
It is easier said than done, but
Practice.
practice. Exactly. Okay, so I'm gonna give sticks.
In theory, it all sounds good. I mean, practice. In reality, it takes practice.
Find one that you calls to you, pretend like you're at the wand shop, and then one call their name.
I was gonna say, you're taking these out?
You can if you want to.
I'm just kidding. Okay, I know how long it took you to get
There's not many of us
the
here.
way you want them.
Yeah. So cheating. Sort of in a stable position.
Oh, it's just like it's
Oh, it's just stuck in.
One collar is sitting on
So adjust yourselves, sit upright, get a comfortable spot. And you're essentially just finding a balance on your shoulder. Sit.
You hear that a lot, aren't we? Yeah, we don't
You
have
got
to
it,
have a
Leah?
thought.
And you don't want us like to prop up the shoulder, or just try to be as natural as possible, or?
Yeah, just you're gonna want to sit up.
Tilt it forward.
Be able to sit. So we'll sit like 15 minutes. And now you want to, of course, do your normal meditation. So whatever you're meditating on or with or for, you're doing your normal session. I didn't pay attention.
Make one adjustment.
That's good.
And just in my leg, I still didn't go.
Good job.
It's freaking neat though. It made me very warm.
It's a little easier with these because they're lighter. So with subtle movements, it won't necessarily move. With the heavier, like the thicker bamboos, couldn't find any of those. So like I'll settle with these. Using the big ones.
2x4s next week.
Yes.
2 each side, like
Yeah, one on each side, right?
Next time we'll bounce on our
Yeah.
head. I was actually thinking of putting like one on each side. Like halfway through, I'm like, no, maybe next time. Like, since we have enough.
We're advanced kids.
On.
yeah.
But yeah. And what you can also do to help adjust your posture is putting these behind your back, your arms in front on both sides. I can't do it on my robot.
Like
Do
this.
that. There we go. Now, yeah,
Help keep your back straight.
right.
Then you're using the stick as a crutch, kind of.
Basically, but it'll help like
Get your body used to
program.
it.
Yeah, something like that. That's what I used to do.
More flexible stick.
But yeah. Okay. Good job, guys. Any last minute questions, concerns, emotional outbursts? I say emotional outbursts, but I really don't want to hear any emotional outbursts. It's just a habit. I say that during team meetings.
So on this, of course, it helps you with your posture, but when you're meditating, because I do find myself kind of like sinking in a little bit. But if I feel that, then I adjust myself and I break my concentration as much as I can. So.
Well, you're not really breaking concentration. You're being mindful, right? So, I think I've mentioned before, like if you're going to be doing anything other than what you're meditating on, like adjusting yourself or adjusting your posture, your legs, and just be mindful of what you're doing and just go back to your meditation. That way, it's not so much a break in concentration. It's just like a pause. Like you're just like, hold up, wait a minute, let me put a on it.
You don't leave the room.
Right. So you're not like technically breaking concentration. You're just being mindful of something else, and then going back to what you're being mindful about.
So what I noticed was there was one point where I was off, right? So I was off somewhere. And that's when, evidently, I just, without thinking about it, was slipping forward a little bit, right, and felt it kind of rolling, so I caught it. But to your point, it was a good, because otherwise I would have just probably stayed off somewhere, right? But, so it was helpful to know. It told you when, hey, something, it's not just that your posture's changing; it's changing probably because your mind is elsewhere and it's not monitoring.
Yeah, because your back or your posture is kind of like Play-Doh, right? So you can mold it into this nice straight posture and it'll stay there like Play-Doh. But then the only thing that's going to change the shape of your Play-Doh is with an external force, right? And that external force for us is going to be those distractions. So those distractions are going to change our back form. So as long as your concentration is being your concentration is one pointed, you're just focusing on that and be mindful of anything else that may happen, distractions, then you just acknowledge it, continue back, and then you'll stay pretty focused.
Silent. I started doing it silent meditation. Once I started here, just to do this vocal thing with the visual anyway, and you find yourself getting tense.
Oh yeah.
I have a lot of issues with tension. Absolutely.
I'm not relaxed.
So there's a
Not focused.
no, there's good techniques.
I'm going to focus.
So There's a lot of
Okay.
good techniques written about how to release tension from your body while you're meditating. It's basically just taking your consciousness to wherever the tension is, right? Start at the top of your head and just work through your body and just consciously release it. And when I do that, it just helps me so much because I'm like you. I'm mindful,
But now
I'm there,
you're
but I just realized all my
so it
muscles
doesn't
are tense.
It's like a task, right? I'm like,
Yeah.
Well, if you're trying to do the object, the sun or the planets, you're not supposed to be doing that, right? You're supposed to be like focused on the object. So I thought I would be, and now I'm not doing what I was supposed to be doing if I start relaxing in that way.
Well, see, doing that is more of a preliminary practice exercise before you actually go into the full thing. So stretching before meditation is very helpful also. Whenever I do, because usually in the evenings when I do my longer sessions, but before that I'll do a lot of stretching because I'm going to be sitting for like an hour, so I need to be stretching. So stretching does help release some of that tension. But to Lan's point, if you do the whole practice of kind of just going from the head to toe, do that right when you sit, when you first sit down, and it usually helps because I've done it that way before, and it usually helps. But if you still find yourself feeling that tension, then just move your concentration to that instead. So you're not really not doing meditation; you're just meditating on something else.
Yeah.
So you can go back and forth.
That's right.
Don't worry about it.
Especially if you feel better once you come back after making the adjustment and your seat is better and you're feeling just like, oh, that was a hindrance, that muscular tension I was feeling. And for me, it's always related to emotions and thoughts. All these emotions and thoughts come in and I store them all right here. So letting that go. To your point, once we're very well trained, we'll learn to release all that as we sit down on the cushion, but I'm not there yet. And so sometimes I find myself, I have awareness that I'm very, very tense. So it's okay, like Quang says, I believe, to spend the moment just working through and letting it go, because then you can really come back to unimpeded mindfulness in a way. But it's hard. I'm with you. I hold tension, hold emotion as tension in my body quite a bit.
But that's the whole thing though, because like I do really good in all these relaxed situations and even just kind of tense situations. But if something hits the hay for me, I'm like, I'm right back to my tense self. And I kind of feel like that. Like if I can work through those things in my meditation, it's also going to help me keep my meditation when I'm in those problematic areas.
Because that all happens unconsciously, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're not thinking about, oh, I'm going to get tense now. It just happens because of all the things going on in our mind and our bodies. But
I was saying the tension's happening because I'm so focused on what I'm doing.
Yeah, the task. It's a task.
Oh, I
It's
see
I want
what
to
you're
conquer it, right?
It's not, because my mind's been wandering a lot lately, and it's been focused, and so I found myself
right.
trying not to
But you realized that was happening, and that's what's important, right? That's very good, very positive.
That's the first step.
That's right.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. It's like you're recognizing what's happening so you can address it before it goes into this stream of,
And
I'm
it's really
feeling so
cool
much
because you start
pain.
getting it more and more, and you're like, well, you catch things.
You need to catch it. That's the goal. Because otherwise, if you're just hating on the pain and on tension, then that's when you've broken your meditation.
Yeah, I'm used to a guided meditation, and I went silent when I started here. That's why.
It's just it's a transition.
I was like, okay, let me try this stuff you're doing, and I'm like, well, stop.
I'm with you.
I started with guided meditation too, but and it helped, but it distracts me. Like,
Well, after I've gotten used, I've been doing it for so long. I mean, guided stuff for years that it's like background noise, so my mind's wandering. It's
yeah, and see that's what
so
yeah.
I got too used to it. So
you've been practicing meditation for a little while.
yeah,
That's me. It was on my to-do list for like the last 5 years.
Yeah.
I'm finally getting to that. with the help
I
of
didn't have a
mindfulness.
set time to do it though. I was trying to find whenever. And so,
I have these to-do lists, and sometimes items go by next year to year to year.
yeah. So I set up the morning thing to be difficult.
It can be difficult, but hopefully there's some benefit to it.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I think
I don't do guided meditations, unfortunately. I've never been a fan. I've been asked to do it. I was like, I don't.
Well, the thing is, if you let go and you truly listen to everything they say, it's really relaxing. It
Yeah.
can be. And that's what kept me focused on not everything else. It was totally felt in the thought of whatever the other person was saying.
Right. Yeah,
But see, guides, the whole nature of a guide is a temporary thing, right?
There you
Motivation
go, yeah.
thing, right?
'Cause I-
Even the Buddhist says, I'm here just to help you, the raft, to get across to the other side of the river, then you don't need the raft anymore, don't carry it around. Right?
Because the mind is very untrained. Like my brother is really, really smart and just he has all kinds of talents, but his mind is all over the place. And so I think a guided meditation would help him, where a silent one would just frustrate him.
Yeah.
Because they still need something to focus on. And I think you're right. I think it's like just kind of
and sitting in
stages.
your thoughts isn't always helpful.
No, it's not.
I guess that's not avoiding.
acknowledging.
When I first started meditating, it was to avoid stuff, and I found through doing meditation that's not what it was.
No, it
And it
confronts
made me
us.
mad. It made me mad.
Which even more
for
aware
a
of
while.
things,
It made me mad.
Yeah, you have to
That's a catch-22.
address them. Makes you address
That
things.
why meditation. Oh my God. Why? And then
And
you
then-
find out why, and you're like, dang.
I know.
in the corporate world, it's called root cause analysis, right? So for any process, you run all the whys, and there's several other things. The Ishikawa diagram. There's always different methods you use to plot out cause and effect, and this and that and the other. But in essence, it's all the same.
My boss used to come post-mortem reports. It's like, what? Military. I was not a military. He was a military. But that's what they call post-mortem reports.
That was one of the most popular phrases at USAA, and in the last 10 years I worked there, no one ever had time to stop what they were doing and do a post-mortem. It was just never done. Or if it was just cursory. It's like, we're doing a post-mortem, isn't that great? But so busy, so much coming in the front. It's like, yeah, when we get done, we're going to sit down with lessons learned, and no, you're on to the next thing. And that was really stressful for me, because it's like, I want to learn from this, right? Hey, these things didn't go right. Let's fix it. But we don't, and then we just keep doing it.
Yeah, you saw the value in but we are a very we try to be a very efficient society. They were saying that even that wasn't going to affect our health system with this corona thing, not to bring it up again, but here it is. But that because we order supplies as just to what we need. We don't have extra respirators. We don't have because we're taught to be very efficient. Everything's about efficiency. And in this case, it's so we don't have all the equipment, the respirators, the supplies that we need. But we are America, so I'm sure we'll get it somewhere. I say China sends them to us. They're done with them. Right? Oversimplifying them.
That is it. Thank you, everyone.